Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "The things taught in schools and colleges are not education, but the means to an education." Of the 7 leadership influences that Shoup addressed, I feel as though formal and informal education are the most important influence for someone who wants to become an exceptional leader. When it comes to formal education, we typically think of high school and college, but formal education can also include technical school and other types of organized learning. Usually there is a teacher involved who uses predetermined lesson plans and operates using a set schedule. The only limit for some when it comes to formal education is the cost. Most everyone has the opportunity to go to high school, but there are varying degrees of education one can receive by attending high school. A more affluent student, for example, may be able to attend a private Christian high school where they are given more opportunities to learn than another student who attends an urban high school in a low-income area of town. Not only that, but one could argue that there might even be better quality teachers at the Christian high school versus those who teach at the inner city high school. One study done by the Association for Psychological Science found that students from socioeconomically advantaged schools set the bar higher for themselves, whereas those at high-achieving high schools had less lofty expectations, perhaps because they assumed they don't need to. This just goes to show that the amount of education received from formal education also depends on an individual's willingness to learn. I also agree with others who say that we must keep higher education affordable for most everyone. Not only is it important to make the experiences affordable, but to provide the right type of experience. Co-curricular activities and surrogate parenting on behalf of the faculty and support staff versus just dispensing of knowledge provides a continuous context for personal and professional development, a source of encouragement and a sense of belonging for the leaders in this crucial stage of their development. Many of the leaders Shoup illustrated had professors in their lives that became mentors to them, which I feel was crucial to their learning success and made an impactful difference in their lives as future leaders. Their mentors seemed to give them a sense of encouragement and confidence in their abilities, which allowed them to be stronger leaders later on in life. And when education has a perceived purpose, is meaningful and relevant, we too become enthused for learning. Formal education sometimes forces students to learn things outside of their comfort zone. If given a choice, students will always pick a class that they have an interest in. If I had a choice between the following classes, political science, history, and accounting, I would most likely always pick accounting. This is why colleges and universities have specific degree requirements so that students receive a diverse education and they are forced to take classes they would not otherwise have any interest in taking. In contrast, informal education requires one to learn for themselves at their own pace. This type of learning is done independently through methods such as clubs or organizations, conversations with others, playing sports, or simply by reading the newspaper like Jack Welch did. Sometimes learning isn't intentional either. It just happens because the individual is open to learning. While he was in London attending law school, Gandhi was exposed to ideas, discussion groups, and thinking that began to enthuse and inform his worldview. The leisure of being a student afforded Gandhi informal educational opportunities that he would not have otherwise been exposed to. The sky is the limit for informal education, and it is up to the individual to decide exactly how much they want to learn. Both formal and informal education are important if one wants to be an impactful and effective leader. I like to say that living in today's world takes both book smarts and street smarts. Through formal education, you become book smart, and through informal education, you become street smart. Formal education is important because there is learning in the classroom that would not otherwise take place. For example, had I not enrolled in the master's degree program at Tabor, I would not have learned my strengths through the Clifton Strengths Test. I enjoy learning a variety of new things, but examining myself is not something I used to think was important. That is, until I was forced to take a class that focused on me. No matter what type of leader you want to be, getting an education is important. For a transformational leader, education is important because this type of leader must be able to intellectually stimulate their followers to be creative and innovative and to challenge their own beliefs and values, as well as those of the leader and the organization. Without years of education through formal and informal education, it would be hard for a leader to intellectually stimulate their followers. In addition, transformational leaders become strong role models for their followers. They are confident, competent, and articulate, and they express strong ideas. They listen to followers and are not intolerant of opposing viewpoints. This is where both formal and informal education are important, because you cannot be all of these things I just described unless you have some knowledge to back it up. For example, you wouldn't want a leader in any position who is unsure of himself or herself. Thus, having a formal education and informal education to help build that knowledge and confidence is crucial if you want to be a transformational leader. Authentic leadership can be nurtured in a leader, and it's not necessarily a fixed trait that someone is born with. This type of leadership usually develops in people over a lifetime, and it is likely that informal educational opportunities help develop the authentic leader into his or her true self. Authentic leaders are passionate individuals who have a deep-seated interest in what they're doing and truly care about their work. It is that drive that allows them to successfully lead others and inspire them to do great things. Authentic leaders also have a level of discipline that gives them focus and determination. When leaders establish objectives and standards of excellence, self-discipline helps them to reach their goals and to keep everyone accountable. How can you encourage your followers to better themselves if you don't take steps to continually better yourself through learning? It is also through both formal and informal education that one can learn to be a servant leader. While being a servant leader comes more naturally for some, it is possible to learn to be a servant leader. Of the 10 servant leadership characteristics outlined by Peter Northouse, commitment to the growth of followers is the one that stands out the most in relation to education. Servant leaders are committed to helping each person in the organization grow personally and professionally. This commitment can take many forms, including providing followers with opportunities for career development, helping them develop new work skills, taking a personal interest in their ideas, and involving them in decision making. It is both the formal and informal education that gives leaders the knowledge and abilities to help develop their followers, as well as the confidence to help develop and mentor others. In his writing, Shoup suggested that exemplary leaders had 7 primary influences which made them great leaders. They included involved parents, a happy childhood, formal and informal education, prodigious patrons, critics and adversaries, sequences of success, and lastly, favorable fate. In my studies, I have learned that every good leader didn't come from a happy home with involved parents. In essence, it is not a requirement to have these things if one desires to be a good leader. Mentors within the community can help a leader come to life, including the teachers they are exposed to from a young age, pastors, and many others they will come across in their lives. Also, those who have greater challenges growing up do have the possibility to overcome and use those challenges to help make them a better leader. As for prodigious patrons, critics and adversaries, and sequences of success, I feel as though these are all influences that leaders can get through their education. Lastly, favorable fate. God is in charge and He has a plan for each and every one of us. It is not necessarily that some of us are luckier than others. It is that God is showing us the way and some of us haven't found our way yet. One thing is for certain, if we work hard and do our best to follow the path that He has laid out for us, we will be immensely blessed. I encourage you to pause for a moment and think about where you would be right now and how much you would have missed out on if you had not joined the master's program at Tabor. Without your education, both formal and informal, would you be as good of a leader as you will be after completing the program?